So as it stands right now, this is the first day we've got the trailer. We don't yet have something that we're going to tow it with, but we're going to be looking in the next day or two and we'll take you on that journey. Way down to Lethbridge is going to be the closest place we can find the exact kind of van that we're looking for. It's going to be a 2012 one-ton Chevy Econoline van that is rated for a 10,000 pound towing capacity. So I mean, we're going to have lots of towing capabilities. I feel like we don't need a truck for this thing. And let me show you something on the outside that's actually pretty cool for those who tow things. All right, so this is super cool. This is something we weren't expecting that came with this thing, is these Reese sway bars. They are like an extra $800 attachment if you were to buy these things separate, and they just came with the previous owner. They had hooked them on, so we got them no extra cost. And my father-in-law was the one that went down to go pick this thing up because he's got a truck, and like I said, we don't have something to pull it with just yet. But he said on the road back, it was all highway, a little bit of hills, but it ran smooth and straight as an arrow, no bouncing, no swaying. There was even a good wind going like there usually is, and it was great. He's like, I can't believe how steady this thing is. So looking forward to that. Check this out too. I forgot to show you this. This is super exciting. So this little unit right here that we pull out pops down like so. What we're gonna do is take this little guy, this little bendy spigot, pop it into here, which attaches to our water supply. We've got a sink, goes into a little basin right here. Give you a good look at that. Boom. Pretty cool. And now we have a different line which goes all the way underneath to that little guy right there. Once plugged into there, then the outdoor magic happens, because we can start grilling them meats. Everybody wants to grill them meats. Here we go. Got a nice little butane outdoor barbecue, or I should say stovetop. And what will happen when we have it nice and parked at a campground or something is that little fella up there comes out. So we got an awning that'll pull out. We can lay down a nice carpet or mat on the ground. Have a kitchen outdoors here, more or less. Booyah. So, it is Thursday now, June 17th, and there's been a bit of a hitch in our plan. Our goal was always to get a bumper tow trailer and get a Econoline van, a one-ton with a good towing rating to pull that thing. Because we started looking at the Class A style motorhomes originally. We figured it'd just be super easy to get an all-in-one package, something that you just drive around like a bus. I mean, it's super simple, right? Until you start thinking about, I've got to get 4 kids in there as well. And then you start realizing most of them don't have the actual anchoring, proper anchoring for kid seats. So you have to sort of haphazardly put something together. And then once we started looking deeper into that, my wife especially started getting really concerned with the safety of the Class A. So we looked up some crashes, which was a bad idea. They basically come apart like Kleenex boxes in a head-on collision, even a side swipe, or if they go off the road, they tumble and just explode. And think about if you're driving a Class A, you've got 2 pilot seats in the front and a whole living experience behind you. And they're basically built out of fiberglass and dreams. They're not really held together for crashes. And so when they do crash, not only do they fall apart, but you basically get hit in the back of the head with an entire kitchen and a bedroom. So it's not good. You don't want your kids in that situation. And of course, we don't expect to get in a crash, but we always want to plan for the worst case scenario. So the Class A was the original idea that went out the window when we looked into it. And then, like I said, we ended up sort of going down the line of what do we want to do? What kind of unit are we going to run? We know what the plan is, broad strokes, but we got to get down to the nitty gritty now. And so we ended up getting our trailer, and it was a great buy. It was a great find. It's actually really hard to find one of these quad bunk trailers that have 2 bunk beds in the back to take care of 4 kids. That's our kids, all 4 of them, all in one area, perfect. We don't have to worry about putting a couch out every night or tearing down a dining area. A lot of RVs, including ours, can do that for extra beds, but these ones are all built into the back, perfect. We found that one. That one was a really well-maintained unit. I think it was only 1 owner. And then all we had to do, because that's a bumper tow unit, it wasn't a 5th wheel that goes on a truck. This was another part of the decision, is we didn't want to get a 5th wheel because then we have to pull it with a truck. And that's all well and good. They have amazing towing capacity, the best you could hope for, better than a van by far. But it doesn't have a good riding situation for the kids. Sure, they've got all sorts of buckles that you can buckle your kid seats into, but it's crowded. You know, if you've ever been in the back of a truck, it's not great for 3 people, let alone 4. You can't really jam 4 kids back there, so you're bound to have at least one of the kids riding in between the front seats, which is never a great situation. And it's just, can you imagine doing that even once for like an 8-hour trip? Then think about doing that for the better part of a year. Going state to state, province to province, country to country. It's untenable. So the truck was pretty quickly taken out of the equation. So what do you get? We found that these Econoline vans, these 1-tons, they can tow like 9,200 pounds, which is sweet, because our trailer fully loaded up is like 75. So we would have lots of room for towing. And we found a couple of these units. They're not easy to find because it's not a common ask to have that type of van. And this is what we found out, is there's 2 different types of these units. There's a 12-seater and there's a 15-seater. And obviously 12 is lots. We don't need 15. But the biggest difference between the 2 is the tow rating. So I apologize, I've got these blood hawks everywhere around me. Here in Canada, if you live even close to outside the city, the mosquitoes are insane. And sun's going down, so it's dinner time for them. The 15-seater, the towing capacity drops significantly. So if you look at the 12-seater, it's the one that's tow rated for like 9,200 pounds. And then just adding that 1 extra bench behind it, because it extends the chassis so far, you drop down to like 7,500 pounds towing capacity. Well, guess what? That's our trailer fully loaded up. That's like right at the peak max availability, and I don't like that. That doesn't make me feel good at all, knowing that I'm pulling at max capacity at all times. So the 12-seater was the only option, and that knocked 2 out of the 3 options right off the table right away when we found that out. But there was one option left. There was a 12-seater that was at a dealership, so it was well taken care of. It had all the specs, all the Carfax. We knew that it was in good condition. It had relatively low mileage, and it was within our budget. So we're like, okay, once we have our trailer, then we're gonna go down and get the van. It's a long drive. It's down in Lethbridge, which from where we are right now is like 8 hours round trip. So we were saving that for last. We got the trailer first. It was more local. And before we went down, before we decided to make the trip, my father-in-law, who's really the brains when it comes to anything mechanical, he contacted the dealer, and I forget the question he asked, but basically the response he got from the dealer let us know that this has 12 seats in the van, but that's only because it doesn't have the back bench, and it's actually a 15-seater. So all of a sudden we were back to square one. This was yesterday we figured this out, is none of the vans that we thought were an option are an option anymore. So where does that leave us? Immediately I started reaching out to friends that were in the business. I got some friends that had some connections. I asked them to sort of put some feelers out to try see, are there some vans that we don't know about that are hiding out there? Can you help us out? Because we're down to no options. Now we have this trailer and nothing to pull it with. That doesn't work for our situation. So I put those feelers out. But in the meantime, I put a post out on Instagram showing the trailer and letting everybody know that we're at this stage right now and we're all excited to get this thing going. It had, like, a lot of people were very excited for us, especially about this vlog that we're making. And I had one person reach out in the DMs and say, man, I'm so excited for you. This is something that I've wanted to do for a very long time. We've put a lot of thought into it, me and my wife, and when we're ready to pull the trigger, we're gonna do basically the same thing. We're gonna get a bumper tow, and we're gonna get like a nice SUV with a high rating tow capacity. And it was at that point where I was like, wait a minute. Why haven't I thought of SUVs? I wonder what they're rated for. Are they just like small towing? Or like, you think about an SUV, like some of those things are like basically trucks, built on truck chassis, like they're pretty beefy. Why haven't I considered that? And then I was driving through McDonald's later that day with this idea sort of rattling around in my head. And lo and behold, I pull up behind an SUV, a large one. It was actually a Yukon that had a trailer hitch on the back of it. And the line was going really slow, and I pulled my phone out and Googled Yukon towing capacity. And go figure, not only does the Yukon tow really well, but it's actually one of the highest tow ratings of any SUV out there. It actually breaks 12,000 pounds. So forget about 9,200 with a bumper tow Econoline van, 12,000 pound towing capacity with the XL 2500 unit, which you can find. I Googled right away, looking on Kijiji, looking on Facebook Marketplace, looking on cartrader.com, and a bunch of these other places where people, look for some used units. And we found like a small handful of these ones. And they're actually within our budget. So in like a 24-hour span, we went from we're going to get the van to there is no van to are there any vans to we're not getting a van. All the way to what about an SUV? Let's check out these SUVs. These SUVs are perfect. There's plenty of these SUVs. So that's where we end up right now, is we are putting out some emails and some messages to these people that own these things. There's one that's about 45 minutes away that I'm hoping to get a reply back right away. And once we get a reply from them, we'll go out and check it out. And I'll take you along for that one, because I'm really hopeful. I think that this could be the right unit. Not only does it tow well, but it seats 7 people comfortably. It's like leather interior. These things are definitely much more trip comfort equipped for long hauls, as opposed to these Econoline vans, which are okay, but it's like a bench seat on a bus with some seat belts. It's not that great. I think this could really strangely end up sort of funneling us to what was the best option to begin with. Let's find out. Well, here we go. We decided to go with this unit right here. So after a lot of deliberating, we were looking at a few of these different things. We ended up with a GMC Yukon XL 2500 3/4 ton. So this one is the heavy duty version of the Yukon, specifically for the extra towing capacity. And obviously anybody who knows anything about motors and the build out of these truck type devices is it's going to be a lot less wear on all of the components, be it brakes, rotors, all that stuff, because it's just built a little beefier. These things are built like a tank. The guy that owns it, he told us that it only towed once in its entire lifetime. He towed his own boat to BC and back once, and so it's had like 5,000 kilometers of tow on it. The only downside to the motor that had us a little concerned is it's got quite a few kilometers on it. It's got like 260,000 kilometers, but because it was so well maintained, it doesn't really count for the same amount. You know what I mean? Like, they were changing the tranny fluid every 50,000 kilometers. All of the parts are GMC parts. They didn't cheap out on anything, and I think that it's probably going to run like a dream. We were asking him about the time that he towed it, how it pulled, because we obviously haven't hooked this up to our trailer yet. And he said that not only did it pull his boat, which is about 7,000 pounds, like a dream, but it didn't kick anywhere. It also, he took sort of evil joy in passing people on the highway with it. He said it would rip right around. There was no power loss up and down mountains, which is sweet. We were a little bit confused though, because the reason we decided to go for the Yukon over any other SUV after we started looking at SUVs is because Google told us that it was rated the highest for tow capacity at 12,000 pounds. So we were like, wow, that's huge. We were looking at an Econoline van that was like 92. But when we got here, we looked at all of the specs on it, and it turns out that it's actually only rated for 8,800 pounds. So I was confused. I'm like, well, how can it be so different? This is like the XL version. This is the heavy duty version. What we did find out after looking through the owner's manual is it is the aspect ratio for the tranny is one of the lower versions that it can be right now, which rates it for that 8,800. And if we wanted to, we could put the work in, take it to a shop and change the aspect ratio on the tranny to bring it up closer to 10,000 pounds. But I don't think that we're going to make that choice right now, because we haven't even hooked it up to our trailer to see how it tows. And if there's no problem with it whatsoever, I don't think that we'll waste our money on that. And this is, you know, everything that we need otherwise. It's got leather interior, it's got a DVD player for the kids, a lot more comfortable ride for the family when it comes to, you know, just the comfort of travel. So here we go. This is the Weatherhead's vehicle. It's going to tow us all over the continent. So one of the benefits of doing what we're doing as far as taking our own lives into our hands, traveling around at our own leisure, at our own timing, one of the great things about that is exactly that. We can make our plans as we go. There's not really any set timeline on things. We can change our direction as we want to. But like I've said since the beginning, our goal is to get down to the States. And just yesterday, it was announced that the closure for the Canadian and American border has been extended for another month. And this is something that they've been doing since March of 2020. But nonetheless, the border is closed still coming into July. The next decision will be, I think, the 24th or 23rd of July. This is the only thing that really affects our decision making at all at this point, is where we go has still been limited to Canada. So for the next month at least, we're going to go around Canada. We're going to sort of travel around a little bit. You know what? We got to get used to this trailer. So this will give us time anyways. It's part of the Chronicles, man. This is part of the journey. We are still definitely heading down to the States, but you know, in good time. If it takes all summer for them to open the border, we're going to summer in Canada. And you know what? That's not the worst thing in the world. Especially now, it seems that at least in Alberta, the gyms are starting to reopen, so we're definitely going to be going around to different gyms, getting some cross-training, getting some stories, meeting some people, slapping and bumping, and, you know, having that human interaction that we all missed out on over COVID.